Well, the year 2020 has been a marathon of surprises, shocks and wonders. In a rare occurrence, the highlands of Lesotho turned into a winter wonderland covered with thick snowfall and heavy rains. While many had to postpone their trips to the highlands, the situation was even worse for many who occasionally crossed the Orange River into South Africa, avoiding fees required for the mandatory Covid-19 PCR tests. For more on this story, we are now joined via Skype by the Lesotho Correspondent, Rapelang Radebe. He is in the capital of Lesotho. Rapelang, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Simply, good evening. Hi to you.
This must be the coldest time in Lesotho for now, isn't it? But is this what was predicted?
A bit weird indeed. I was looking because on Friday I was shouting at the guys who do my air conditioner to ask them to turn it to the summer mode. But all of a sudden I had to switch it back to the winter because suddenly there is snow in the high-lying areas and much torrential rains, I think, that caused havoc. So a little unexpected for November 1st, I think.
So this snow, when did it start and how is it affecting people and livestock, which is the biggest export contributor to the GDP?
You are absolutely correct, because it was only this week when we learned of lots of rains that would be coming this way. But there was really not much alert in terms of snow. And you will understand that it has affected mostly the area which shares the border with KZN, KwaZulu-Natal in Mokhotlong. This is an area which is very high in terms of tourism. A lot of people visit what we call the ski resort, Mahlasela, in that area. But also when it comes to animals, when it comes to livestock, this is an area that gives a lot of exports. You'll understand the wool and mohair is one of the most exported commodities in that particular area. So it must be affected. It is really a little unusual. I think that climate change, it becomes quite real in this time of the day, that we can find snow in November. I think hopefully we'll be having snow in Christmas.
And the rivers, Rapelang, are drenched with flood water. How is this affecting daily living?
Indeed, you will understand that Lesotho shares many borders, I think up to 17 borders with South Africa. And most of them are borders that people really share the rivers from the other side to the other side. But I think what's affected is that, especially when we get to the shepherd boys, those who cross and graze on the other sides, they do the same. Some share relatives, very close proximities. And when the river rises, a lot of them are really at a risk of being swept away. But we've seen a different narrative taking place nowadays. You know, due to the COVID-19 regulations, a lot of people opted to cross the river into South Africa and vice versa. I was told by some who said they had visited their relatives. Actually, they wanted to attend a funeral ceremony, and they said to pay the hefty fee of around 1,000 rand to go to a funeral. If it's a family of about 4, they just simply opt to go and do it and cross across the rivers. So I think this calls for the powers that be to really consider that the relationship between some of the villages that share the Orange River needs a special attention.
Do we know if there's been any accidents or loss of lives reported?
I was made aware of some accidents, especially due to the snow. One, what we call, I think, mostly used as the meter taxi or your Uber kind of, if you call it, but we call them the 4+1s in Lesotho. That's the one that had an accident, but I don't think it was a fatal accident simply because of the slippery and wet conditions. But because the rain tends to pick up speed later in the evening, we mostly get to know of the results of missing either cattle or people the following morning, when stories begin to come up. So we really at this point cannot give a proper account. We'll try and consult the police of whether they've had some reports regarding this, but for now we only know of the snow-related accidents.
And this certainly must be a welcome relief given the need for refilling dams in Lesotho, which obviously supply South Africa and Gauteng in particular, isn't it?
Indeed, you are absolutely right. The dam levels, if you look at Mohale, Katsi, and others, had really drastically dropped, some even below 15, 14%. So the rain was much anticipated. You'll understand those dams are the ones that feed all the way to Johannesburg. The water from the highlands are the ones. So when the rains came, it's a welcome relief for them. But at the same time, it's a blessing and a bit of a havoc for those who live downstreams. But I'm sure Gauteng will love the rain.
And I mean, rain and snow is quite a spectacle, particularly in the summer season. And I'm sure that the tourism industry will be boosted in a way.
Indeed, you are right. If you look at how the grass was looking, it was just terrible a week or so. But as soon as the droplets of the rains became that the grass wakes up, and it's a beauty to go up in the mountains. If you go some of those pubs about 3,000 meters above sea level, they call it one of the highest pubs in Africa. The scenery is just amazing. And you'll understand that as we go towards the season, the tourists begin to enjoy. It's relatively affordable and cheap. Those with 4x4 trekkings, this is the time to be hitting the mountains. But when the weather is like this, I am sure the ski resort will be thriving, because usually they have a shorter season, because when it starts to heat, it's a little expensive, I think, to maintain the snow for those who want to ski. But I think this was a free fall for them.
All right, Rapelang, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate your time. Hey.
Thank you, Simply.
That was our Lesotho correspondent, Rapelang Radebe, joining us live via Skype.